we're starting off with a team that isn't so hot. Actually, they're kind of really cold right now, and that's the Brooklyn Nets.
Why are they cold if they just traded away for a superstar? I don't understand it. Explain to
Well,
me, Amir. Why are they cold?
Caleb Miller, Caleb Matthew Miller. Let's get right to it.
It's not my middle name, guy.
So the Nets started off right as soon as they traded for James Harden. Kyrie Irving was still out. KD and Harden won their first two games without Kyrie. They were on a roll. They were looking good. Harden was the first player ever to have 30 points in both of his games and 10 assists in his first two games on a new team. He was looking good. KD was looking good, and they were on a roll. Then, bringing ding, Kyrie comes back. Kyrie comes back against the Cleveland Cavaliers. So, this game was interesting. This was the first game back, a lot of hype. People were interested, and it went to double overtime. So, a lot of people would think, wow, double overtime. That's a little bit weird, but I mean, I get it. It's their first game. In double overtime, Colin Sexton went absolutely nuts and went 1-on-5 and killed the entire Brooklyn Nets hearts and souls. That was an interesting game because I think it kind of showed you that one non-star ended up being three superstars, and shows you the dynamic of the NBA now where you can have players on any team step up and beat any team. I mean, we've seen it with the Warriors in the past, but the Nets did not have a great first game. They then played Cleveland again, Caleb. And can you guess what happened in their second game?
I'm going to go ahead and throw out there that they perhaps lost again to the Cleveland Cavaliers.
Wow, we have a prediction specialist right here. They did, in fact, lose again, and they lost to the measly Cleveland Cavaliers once again, two in a row. And I get it, Cleveland has been a good team this year, but oh boy, is that a problem in Brooklyn right now? Because two straight games they lost against a team that shouldn't be too much of a challenge for them. Again, we get it,
Shouldn't
that's their
even
first
be
two
within
games.
a 15-point game with those three out there on the court. Let's be honest.
Yeah, well, when you see them three, you expect them to actually blow teams out, especially teams like Cleveland. Well, they were having trouble. They ended up losing to Cleveland once again. Then they played again on Saturday against the Miami Heat at home. Now, this one they really needed. Miami's been struggling. Jimmy Butler, Tyler Hero have been out with COVID. They've been playing the more lineups than any other team. Eric Spoelstra has had a lot of tough stuff on his hands. And if you watch that game, man, they were this close to losing it again. They were up by 10 in the fourth quarter, and Miami went on a run. Bam had 40 points by himself. Duncan Robinson was lights out. And that was a little bit concerning to me. Once again, that Duncan Robinson was beating a team with Kyrie, Harden, and KD. Now, it did come down to the last minute where they were fouling. And, you know, when you got guys like KD, Harden, and Kyrie, they're going to step up and make their free throws. So the Nets are not looking very good right now, Caleb, but how do you feel about them? Do you think they'll eventually bounce back, or is this going to be a year of struggling for them?
A little bit of both. We know that big threes, whenever they do get together, they do typically struggle early on. What did the Heat start? 9-10, or what was it? 7-11 or something. Their
7
first
and
year together.
11, and they're in
Yeah,
13th in the East right now. Not great.
yeah. So when the Heat big three got together, they struggled early, and you put together the fact that, well, has there ever been a big three this talented, right? With this much talent on the court at the same time? You can make an argument that there hasn't. But at the same time, the Heat team, whenever they got together and struggled a little bit, they ended up filling out their bench really well. They were very deep. Like, a lot of people don't understand that they did a great job filling out that roster. So I think that Brooklyn will figure it out and start to get together and win a bunch of games in a row, start to string something together. But I do think that this year is going to be a little bit disappointing to people's standards because they don't have that depth. Giving up Jared Allen in that deal for relatively nothing. Like, I don't even think Cleveland really gave up much of anything to get him. It sucks. They should have went and tried to get Shamet out of there, but it just didn't happen. And
Damn it.
Shamet I call him. But they should have tried to get him out and keep Jared Allen. That's what they should have done. They shouldn't have. I don't know. I just don't like the idea that they for forcefully giving up Jarrett Allen in a deal because Kyrie and KD's affection for DeAndre Jordan is very odd. It doesn't really make sense in the modern NBA, and I think that that'll come back to bite them a little bit. Now, I know that they are interested in JaVale McGee. We'll have to see what happens there. But again, I just think Jarrett Allen would have been so much more vital to that team. Or he was more vital to that team than people realize. He was very good.
Yeah, I think the guy that they're getting in JaVale McGee is what Jarrett Allen is now. JaVale McGee in his Denver days is kind of what Jarrett Allen is now. And giving up a guy like Jarrett Allen was huge for them. We talked about this personally before this podcast. We said the fact that they gave up Jarrett Allen for nothing was really shocking to me. And I think that's going to cost them. Right now, they have given up 110 points per 100 possessions in 9 straight games. And in their next 10 games, they only have Sacramento and New Orleans that are worse defensively than them over that stretch. So it's going to be difficult. They're going to have to step it up defensively. That team has struggled on a defensive end. And if they don't pick it up, you're going to have some trouble in New York. And I'm not talking about the Knicks for once.